Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Thomas of Woodstock and we get to hear from Cowtail today in Act 3, Scene 3, which is a lovely name for a character, and as it happens, he is a cattle farmer, but we'll get to that in a second. So in the beginning of Act 3, in Act 3, Scene 1 and Act 3, Scene 2, we get a very full picture of what Richard and his flatterers are doing to the country. They have this blank charter plan where they're going to get signatures and seals from people all over the place so that they can then collect money of an undetermined amount at a later date. But they're spending that money on beautiful new clothes for themselves and these very lavish dinners that are happening in Westminster all the time. And Richard had sent for Woodstock to come back to court because he's like, the people are going to get upset about this blank charter thing, but the people like Thomas. So if he's here in court with me, then they will be less likely to mutiny. So a servant or a messenger went to retrieve Woodstock, who the servant mistook Woodstock for like the stable boy and was saying like, take care of my horse. And then he's terribly embarrassed when he realizes that is actually the Duke of Gloucester. And he's like, King Richard would like you to come back. And Thomas is like, no, the court isn't my place. I need to be here when the people start going crazy about your plans. So that brings us up to Act 3, Scene 3. So Act 3, Scene 3, we are out in the country. We are out in just a regular old village. And we have Crosby and Nimble and a couple others who have been tasked with taking these charters out and actually collecting the signatures and seals from the wealthy people, wealthy men and widows is who they've been instructed to talk to. And this particular town, they're like, nobody's going to sign these because they've started to hear rumblings of things and they're getting all nervous about it. But then the bailiff is like, no, I'll sign my name to one first, and then other people will follow suit because they will see that I have done it. And they're like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's everybody break up and we'll go this way, you go that way. So Nimble and the bailiff go this way, Crosby and Fleming go that way, so they can, divide and conquer and try to collect as many signatures as they can. But before they leave, Nimble is like, also remember to keep an ear out for people that are saying bad things about Richard and or the flatterers. So they break, they go along. And then we are introduced to the farmer and Cowtail. They sort of come across the stage, and the farmer is like, why is everybody leaving so fast? Is there a bear in the market? And Cowtail says, a bear? No, nor a lion baited neither. I tell ye, neighbor, I am more afraid of the bee than the bear. There's wax to be used today, and I have no seal about me. I may tell you in secret, here's a dangerous world towards. Neighbor, you're a farmer, and I hope here is none but God and good company. We live in such a state. I am even most wary of all, I assure ye. Here's my other neighbor, the butcher that dwells at Hockley, has heard his landlord tell strange tidings. We shall all be hoisted and we tarry here, I can tell ye. So this is Cowtail imparting to the farmer that things are a little weird in town at the moment. He's heard some stuff from his friend the butcher, who heard things from his landlord, that things are getting a little bit weird, and he's like checking around to make sure that nobody is listening in on the conversation. He's like, we're going to have to keep an eye out for each other. We're being watched and strange things are coming. And at the beginning, when he talks about being more afraid of the bee because there's wax to be used, he knows that he's going to have to stamp his seal onto something, and he really doesn't want to. So the butcher comes in, and the farmer and the butcher and Cowtail start talking about, like, they're hearing that people have to sign their names to stuff, but this is not necessarily a good thing that's happening, and they're all really leery about it. They're like, maybe we should get out of town before they come looking for us, because, we don't want to be involved in whatever's going on, because we hear all sorts of stuff from what's happening at court. We hear about Richard and his flatterers, and they're spending all this money, and it's ridiculous, and we can't really trust them, so maybe we should get out of town. But before they can get out of town, Nimble and the bailiff show up and they're like, haha, you need to sign your names and put your seals on these papers. And they're looking at the papers, they're like, I can't really see what it says. And they're like, it doesn't really say anything. So they finally are like, well, I guess like we're signing our names to nothing, and we kind of have to sign our names to nothing. So it can't be that bad, right? So they all sign their names. And Nimble and the bailiff stamp them with the wax seals, and the three of them are like, okay, can we go now? And they're like, haha, no, because we heard you saying bad things about the king and his flatterers. So you are now all also under arrest. And they're like, oh, we're going to be hanged for just having this conversation in the street. And they're all very frustrated. But some officers of the law come out and escort the three of them off stage, Cowtail and the farmer and the butcher, because they are now under arrest. At which point then a schoolmaster and his servant come in. And we still have Nimble and the bailiff there. They're just like listening in and observing because they're still trying to make sure that they can catch people in the act. And the schoolmaster and his servant come in, and the schoolmaster's like, look, I worked really hard on these poems. And his servant is like, maybe you shouldn't be saying them. And he's like, no, but they're really good. Just listen. And he reads one of them out, and it's about how the people are going to be taxed with these blank charters, and it's a bad idea, but it ends with God bless Tresillian. And the servant is like, you should not be saying that. And the schoolmaster is going to have a response that we will hear in a monologue tomorrow. So I'll see you then. Mwah.